This is the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast, session number 414. Helen Wyer on discovering specialties.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
Welcome back to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast, and welcome back to Helen Wyer, who joins me this week on the program for the second time. For those of you that didn't catch the first time she was on, it was back in February of 2022 with session number 362, which was titled Helen Wyer, From Mud Hut to Hypnotist. And yes, well, really, no, I'm not going to explain what that means here. Instead, I'll invite you to go back and listen to that previous episode, because you know what? We don't have enough conversations about mud huts in this hypnotic profession, and guess what? We have the number one place you can go to check that out. This, however, is the second time that Helen's been on the program, session number 414, and I invited Helen back on the program to talk about something that, quite honestly, it's one of those dialogues that so many people, not just in this industry, but even in other professions, often run into as a major trap. And that would be this whole dialogue of what do you do to pick your niche or your niche, if you're going to pronounce it that way. And yes, indeed, as Helen and I decided, as she's over in the UK, I'm over here in the US, we found the common ground by titling this week's episode, Helen Wyer on Discovering Specialties. And I believe that the name of this week's session should be a bit of a clue in terms of the way to look at this, which is that of discovering it over time. It's where, as we start our journeys, I'll put this out there, first of all, that yes, as much as I'm a big fan of the term niche, because we prefer that pronunciation because it rhymes with rich, well, the reality is, first of all, everybody who you and I would know, especially in this shared hypnotic space, the people that you and I know that are known for one specific thing, guess what? They also do other stuff. Isn't that interesting? So, no, I'm not suggesting that they're lying, because the majority of what I do is hypnotic change based around people who are entrepreneurs and perhaps report a fear of public speaking, a hesitation in putting themselves out there. And hey, guess what? I'm working with a basketball player at the moment, at the time of this recording, which this is recording about a month in advance, so good luck tracing these stories, recently worked with someone with a fear of flying, as well as somebody who was a previous client, and, well, they're going through chemotherapy treatments. And as much as I don't do a ton of medical hypnosis these days, because we're all allowed to pick our own specialties and decide where we spend the most amount of time, it's someone who I'd worked with many times over the years. And it's seamless just to pick back up and do some support work, more around dealing with some of the side effects, increasing the appetite, sleeping better. So yeah, Jason, the guy who's known for a few very specific things, is also working on other stuff. And that should kind of cue you in to the reality around the whole specialty conversation. What's really to be modeled from this conversation, and specifically why we're featuring Helen on this program for a second time, it's that it's one that she discovered. It's one that, as she started this one dialogue, suddenly there was another specific audience that was reaching out to her. And in the words of Michael Ellner, the late, great Michael Ellner, he would refer to it as the sort of waiting room talk, that people would begin to speak from one to another and sharing the resources that they have found, to where nowadays, I'll let you discover the specifics inside of this week's episode, Helen is now primarily, notice I said primarily working with one specific category, though at the same time still has the capability to work with other things, though also at the same time, while it wasn't necessarily the original goal, has now stepped into the role of trainer and instructor, because she's kind of figured out that she's got some unique patterns and systems of exactly how to help this very specific category. And could I just call out the fact that, no, I am not giving you a preview of what the specific niche, or in our case of this conversation, specialty, happens to be in this introduction. Not that it's a secret. It's that, no, it's that if I did, some of you would go, oh, I don't want to work on that. And you wouldn't listen to this episode. In everything that you do, find the ways. What I'm about to say out loud is entirely one of the reasons, that was a broad statement, that I would say I am where I am right now, both in my personal life and my business life and my journey over time, it's to look at the context more so than you look at the individual content. So if I suddenly said, Helen has now become the expert on this one thing, there are some of you out there that would tune out at this point and go, oh, I'm not interested in that. However, listen to the larger journey, the context as to where she's gone. How my story was not this decision to split the focus between hypnotherapeutic change work and linguistic persuasive strategies around what's now part of my sort of partner company of Attract Pre-Sold Clients. Yet instead, it was this chance encounter where I realized the thing that a public speaking client, what she needed, was different than what I had ever done before, yet I had the skill set to help her to do that, and then it became a big journey moving forward from there. Can we also just call out, for those of you that know me as Jason's the Business Guy, my core programs here on Work Smart Hypnosis. And I believe actually Helen, I think, is members of both of these. One is Hypnotic Workers, that's the digital access version of my training. And then here's Hypnotic Business Systems, the exclusive business training for getting hypnosis clients. As much as I'm branded and given the specialty, the niche of the business guy, for every one person who has gone through Hypnotic Business Systems, there's like 3 or 4 who has gone through Hypnotic Workers. Oh, doesn't that start to tell you something? That oftentimes you can become known for a specialty, and that's the thing that becomes the catalyst, that widening out of the spotlight, and yet it brings people into the other things that you do. Are you starting to think about this specialty, niche or niche conversation differently? I've talked more than enough on this theme. You're going to hear Helen's opinion and Helen's story inside of this episode. And this is session number 414. So to check out exactly how to get in contact with Helen, to find the details of the training that she's now offering, we've made it easy for you to find. Just head over to the show notes for this specific episode. It's over at worksmarthypnosis.com/414. Just type in the numbers 414, and that will magically whisk you away to the page specific about this week's episode with various links, details, and where to go to find that Mud Hut episode, as I'm sure of other resources that we dropped in this conversation. A huge congrats to Helen for taking this massive journey forward in your own journey. And that's journey twice in one sentence. We'll stick with it here. And while you're there looking at the show notes and checking that out, I'd encourage you, head over to hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. That's the all-access pass to my hypnosis business training exclusively for getting hypnosis clients, which, if you're a longtime listener of this program, you may recall that at one point it was a different description. And the benefit is that as I migrated from the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's not the state of Virginia, but the Commonwealth of Virginia down to the state of Florida. And now I'm here in Orlando, living right between the major theme parks. It's that I moved all of my business online. And whether you're seeing clients online, whether you're seeing them in person, the fact that I shut the doors of the Virginia hypnosis practice that I ran for a dozen years meant that I got to punch up the quality of Hypnotic Business Systems, where now there are several done-for-you marketing campaigns that you have my full permission to copy and paste and claim as your own. Of course, modify them to make them unique to your specific style and approach. Check that out and watch the full video tour and claim your spot. It's either a single payment or it's a brief installment payment toward lifetime access. Either way, check out the details, watch the full tour, claim your spot now, hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. And here we go. Session number 414, Helen Wyer on discovering specialties.
Yeah, hi Jason. So I'm probably getting 2 or 3, or today, I've had 3 inquiries today already. The phone started ringing at 9:30 here, and I think the last, I haven't checked emails actually since, it's 8 o'clock here in the evening, but the last one came in at 5:30. So that was 3 in a day. That's quite usual. And I'd say 90% of them, book in for my program. I do 5 sessions for an IBS program that they come to. So the first 2 or 3 where they're relatively close together, depending on schedules and things like that. And then it starts, so the last 2 sessions might be a month to 5 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer apart, so that the client feels really confident that all these changes are permanent, and they feel really confident they can go off and have holidays, go on a train somewhere, go on go sit in a meeting without being terrified where the nearest bathroom is, all that kind of stuff. So going really, really well.
And I'm appropriately cheating over here, which step 1, that is awesome. Can't wait to dive into the specifics of that. And these are now seeing you for the most part for IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, that sort of situation.
Yeah. And of course, it's sometimes people will phone up and say, hey, you've got loads of Google reviews, or I've heard about you. Can we work with you for other type things? So again, nearly always anxiety related, fears, phobias, or just general anxiety and things like that. But specifically, is IBS is my main people that, that's the main things that people are coming to me with.
So then I know you and I have gone around before about different pronunciations of the word, either niche or niche. So we can agree on specialty here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Because I was thinking, right, which one do I say? Over here we say niche, of course, but I'm very well aware it's niche in your neck of the woods.
Well, just to kind of expand it, there's a slightly cynical opinion that I'll swoop in with at times, which is that is one of the easiest things that people can teach. That being said, first of all, and you just said something similar to this too, everybody that we would know who is known for one specific thing also will do other things, because you just talked about anxiety and fear, and I'm sure that does play into the IBS at times. Yet it's that message that we broadcast out. That's where we want to get more specific. That's where we can decide the thing that we're known for, which kind of brings me roundabout to this question of, and I just cheated while I was saying all of that by looking at the show notes of the last time we recorded, which is that it seems we never talked about that topic at that point, possibly 14, 15 months ago when you were last on. So what was kind of that journey for you in terms of, picking that specific focus?
Well, I didn't actually pick it, which sounds bizarre.
Which everybody listen, everything that Helen just said is the way that you ought to do it in most cases. And I don't even know the rest of the story yet, but you were sharing. Go on, please.
Yeah, I never picked it. It kind of, I started off as very much a generalist, because I just loved what I did. I loved doing, and I was like, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. Now, my background is I was a primary school teacher, so I was very used to, in my day, teaching lots and lots of different lessons, so there'd be maths, English, history, a bit of art, bit of, all sorts of things during my day. So to specialize in one thing felt really quite odd, compared to the last few, 20, I don't want to say too much because it makes me sound very old, however long it was. But then it just sort of came to me. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm seeing more and more people, hey, I haven't done weight loss, for example, for over a year. And I was just sort of looking, and I thought, everybody is really seeing me for anxiety-related stuff, or irritable bowel syndrome. Now, here's the thing, quite a few people were saying to me, coming to me with just, can you help with this anxiety, generalized anxiety? And then at the end, they'd write a review and saying, and hey, what do you know? Most of my IBS went. So even without realizing that I was helping people with their IBS when I didn't even know that that's what they'd got. And people talk, people are in groups, people, to self-help groups for IBS. Quite often, 90% of the people I see are word of mouth referrals. And I often laugh and I say it's not even the person themselves, it can be the person's mother's plumber who's heard about me and then recommends me to, that friend's suffering from IBS, I'll get them to get in touch. And the rest of it is a general, just on a Google search or things like that.
Yeah.
So that's how it all came about. I kind of fell into it, and then the more I did it, the kind of more experienced I got, the better I got, and better outcomes I got for people. And then, as I say, people sort of got to hear about me. One of the local hospitals got to hear about me. Now here in the UK, hypnotherapy is, if you go on the NHS website, it's one of the top things that they recommend to use to help with IBS. That's really good from my perspective. Doctors and GPs and consultants, they're not allowed to recommend one particular hypnotherapist. But I know that they do because, well, I get people saying, my consultant kind of said to me that mentioned your name, and then said if anybody ever said to him, he'd pretend the conversation had never taken place. So, I get people that way as well.
Yeah, I love that. Especially, it is one of those categories that just the research is out, that this thing just works for that. I'd have to just ask a question that I don't intend to be probing and deep and personal, yet it's that sometimes we suddenly have this audience that is reaching out to us, or in this case, in the story after the fact, it's that, oh, this also helped with my fill in the blank. Was this an issue that you had realized was as widespread when you were just even getting started with hypnosis?
No, didn't even have a clue. Mm-hmm. I did not have a clue that irritable bowel syndrome could be, treated using hypnosis. So, as I say, I really fell into it and then got rather good at it, made a bit of a name for myself. But it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. I cannot even emphasize how rewarding it is, that when you get emails from people saying, I haven't been on holiday for 30 years. A lot of people are so, they're trapped in their locality. They won't even go down to London on the train for an hour and a half because they're terrified of being caught short, of there not being a bathroom available, all these sorts of things. So to then hear from them, oh, hey, I'm in Spain, or I've gone over to visit, friends in America. That is just such an amazing thing. It's so rewarding. I just love it.
Is there a story that stands out in terms of the one that, or one of the ones that helped to really shift this thought and go, okay, no, let me kind of call out this as an expertise?
The story that always I love is, and I've got it over there, I can see it now, and it's a card from a dog. I know dogs cannot write, but it's this muddy paw print on this card. And this dog, what was his name? He was called, was it Morris or something like that? I don't know. It's just a paw print I can see. And he wrote to me, the dog did, saying, I cannot thank you enough. I've always had to go, just a short walk around the houses where I live, because my owner always needed to know he was near to his home and near to his own bathroom. And he said, I've been over the fields. I've been in the park. I've been so many places, and it's just great. Thank you, with this big muddy paw print on there. And I just love that. And even though that was probably 3-4 years ago, that still takes pride of place in my home office here.
Yeah, I love that. Just the specificity of it. Although you mentioned definitely the volume of people that are reaching out. If you had to divide it out, like what percentage are reaching out for that specific issue versus the other at this point for you?
Oh, 80% easily. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I still get the odd, can you help me stop smoking? Often that can be, once we've done other things, they go, hey, now I'm here. Can we just throw in, do you also do stop smoking or something like that? Because a lot of people have, again, it helps me relax. It helps me, all the usual kind of stuff. So sometimes I'm doing the stop smoking. And I'm really busy. I do refer on some of the things. I don't have a great interest in, say, weight loss. So if I get people inquire for that, which I do, I tend to, refer on because I'm busy enough and it's just not something I'm hugely interested in.
Well, that's part of that strength too, that we, over time, the route that you've gone about this, let me say that better. The route that you've gone about this is the direction that I tend to recommend for people, which is that We could go into this with this one specific passion, this one specific interest, and go, I'm going to be the person who does this specific thing. And one part of that is, well, sometimes you end up being wrong. Or you do it and then you go, this is noble, yet let someone else do this. And I'd be very open about a decision that I made, as part of the time that I moved, which was that I'm clearly doing other hypnotic things besides seeing hypnotic clients. And we have a slightly different, very different system over here in the US, and what should be done in terms of checks and balances of, hey, send the letter over to the doctor, they sign off, then you're fine to schedule because it's diagnosed. And just, we don't have the bandwidth to do that. And because of that, I'm more likely referring to people that I know, wink, wink, who also, this is their specialty, this is what they do best. And again, just like the medical system over there, here's a variety of people that I know who fit into this specific category, and it becomes the wonderful, you've got options. Pick the one you feel the most comfortable with. That's who you should work with. So then, was there, just out of my curiosity, was there another category that perhaps at one point was the thought process to go, this is the one that I want? Or what was kind of the B-sides of this?
I mean, it really freaked me out when I first started, I'll be really honest with you, with everybody saying, I didn't know how to run a business. I'd been a teacher and, I had no idea how to create a business to run. I just knew that I loved what I did and I wanted to make a go of it. And also I didn't have a job in any other way of making income. So it was kind of like quite pressing that I did that quite soon. But then, so you listen to various people, you hear various things, and everybody was saying you need to, you cannot be successful without a niche, speciality, whatever, niche. And I thought, but I don't know what that's going to be. And the pressure to almost try and find that was really huge. I had to almost just think, do you know what? All you people can say what you like. I'm closing my ears to you at this moment, and I'm just going to go and play. I'm going to go and have a go and do various different things and see what floats my boat, what lights me up. Which bits of it I really, really enjoy, and and I suppose I've always been a great believer that if you try lots of different, you'll find something that really resonates. Again, I'd have students at school. Some of them would know from since they were at nursery, well, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a lawyer. Others did not have a clue. And I just used to say to them, just go out, do lots of part-time jobs, do lots of things, when you're at uni and in vacations and things. And you won't know. Sometimes it's trying something out to know that you don't want to do it is as important as trying it out to think I do want to do it. So, there really wasn't there wasn't a plan. I have to be really
right, yeah.
There was no plan apart from I want to do hypnosis. I want to have this hypnotherapy practice business. I want it to go well. Let's just see what happens here. And I think that's a phrase, let's just see what happens, I use all the time when I'm working with clients, because it takes so much pressure off you and actually off them. Let's just see what happens. If it's really, that real outcome of, well, it has to be this, that, and the other, the pressure on everybody is huge. And I think it actually makes what you're actually trying to achieve further away. That sort of, let's just see what happens. We'll have a go at this and, see what happens here. It calms things down.
Have I told you the story? Because it's where Work Smart Hypnosis is its own specific company. And in the move from Virginia down to Florida, it was the appropriate killing of the Virginia hypnosis business because I'm no longer in the state of Virginia. And it kind of became this organic thing that it just got absorbed inside of the training business. So just Jason at Work Smart Hypnosis became the main contact for all the clients that I see. I'm curious if you and I have had the chat as to how, our other company, Attract Pre-Sold Clients, how and why that became separate.
Not sure we have.
Okay, yeah. And this is where I'm going to say the thing that I should have said before I asked this question to Helen. Take everything that she said and apply it to your own specific interests. That is not just a story about one specific issue. It could be mirrored by, here's mine, which was that I liked working with public speaking people. Yet it was the chiropractor who was so terrified of giving this presentation, yet it turned out the biggest issue wasn't the emotional triggers. It was that over here in the States, there was the passing of something called the Affordable Health Care Act. Someone had basically convinced her that insurance will never again cover the work that she does. And that's why, quote, you have to sell this multi-level marketing product, which I crossed a line with permission, which was, I'm going to say something once, and if I'm right, let's talk about it. If I'm wrong, let's rewind back and pretend I never said it. Yet you really want to be a chiropractor. You have zero interest in this product because you don't like it. And you'd feel more confident if you were talking about the thing you were passionate about. She goes, exactly. So like, okay, so how about we work specifically on that presentation? And that kind of was the origin of the linguistics and the sales dialogue and what morphed over time to what's now the sort of sister company of Attract Pre-Sold Clients. And I share that because it was by listening to the audience. And that's the real takeaway, I'd say, from your story, that it was by listening to what they were bringing in, listening to the unintended outcome that, oh, it fixed this other issue. Oh, wow, that can be the focus. And clearly you have tapped into something that is visceral because so many of these inquiries are reaching out specific to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you mentioned public speaking there. That's one of the things, again, I've worked with quite a few business owners because if they've had irritable bowel syndrome and they're getting anxious about public speaking, the two go hand in hand. So they're actually resolving both issues all at the same time. Well, how great is that for them? They get different, lots of different outcomes rather than just the one they came to see me about.
I am only swooping in just to share an anecdote from the theater career, which is this phenomenal thing. Let's perhaps say it's part of the nervous system, that here is the person who ate the wrong thing before they went on stage, and something about the adrenaline, something about the, let's say, positive stress and anxiety of being on stage. I remember the actor one time who said, it's like, do we need to call someone else to do this role today? It's a small role. We can just put someone else in there with a book and just tell the audience, no, I can do it. Just need to get on stage. You can't leave the bathroom. No, the moment I get on stage, the energy will kick in and all this digestion stuff will pause. So that's an option too. And like clockwork, I will let you all finish the rest of the story as to what happened when he got off the stage and made it in time. So in terms of the sort of outward-facing messaging, what have you done differently that's made it easier, let's say, for this specific audience to find you?
That's a tough one to answer, Jason, because again, I think it's sharing stories from people have stories, don't they? People identify with stories, they relate to them and things like that. So if ever I'm asked to do, I'm quite often asked to go and speak to groups of people about what I do and my passion and things like that. And I'm forever dropping in stories of successful outcomes and how things started off for this person and how things were different. And suddenly, you can get, so I had never done a group program for irritable bowel syndrome before. I'd only ever done one-to-one sessions, but I think it was late summer, maybe last year, and had been asked to go and speak to a group of business owners about how hypnosis can help in all sorts of things. So, doing all my stuff, I make it fun, always introduce a little bit of like hypnotic phenomena, and things. So they get fun out of it. They realise just, what can happen. And then suddenly afterwards, we were having coffee, I think, and somebody comes up to me and goes, "Oh, I think I need to work with you, about, I really do have irritable bowel syndrome." And suddenly I'd got a group of people in front of me all saying, "Well, yeah, so have I. What can you do?" And I found myself saying, "Well, I can," because they were all in that same same sort of area. I said, I can run a group program for you. That's no problem. And then thinking after I got in the car, holy moly, how am I going to do this?
Although, let me call something out here, and this is a guess, and this is a guess with a strongly attached opinion to it as well, which is, and there's no harm in what I'm about to say, the person who I had this challenge and that's why I now do what I do. And that's an incredible sort of reluctant hero's journey arc to the story. Though there is something, and I want you to hear this phrase in the most loving and caring way that I can say it, where we're just a little, I'm going to bring it to myself, where I'm just too dumb and I'm too ignorant to claim a specific expertise, or the dangerous thing, make a lot of assumptions. So what would you say the strength was coming into this by only, what I'm guessing was listening to the stories from your clients? And not this, everyone who has this issue, it's because of XYZ, which can become the unfortunate filter when we're kind of filtering through our personal experiences. Does that make sense?
No, I think you might have to repeat that.
Fantastic. I've hosted only about 400 of these, and that was expertly asked. No, it's that this was not coming at it from the initial spark of going, I had this issue, and that's why I now do this.
No, I haven't. I've not had irritable bowel syndrome at all. I've had a dodgy tummy if I've eaten something, not great. Of course I have, but I've not had... Yeah, I've not had this, but yeah, I know I'm good at what I do in being able to help people overcome that in all sorts of different ways, and even being able to do that. The group sessions really challenge me. I'm okay to say that, because you've got, and I think it's then that artfully vague language that as hypnotists we get so good at. But, and then also introducing the specificity. Is that the right way to pronounce that word? At the same time, with it's like, well, perhaps some of you out there, it might be like this and some like that. And you know what? It worked really, really well. And we always do I always do what we call a symptom score. So people at the beginning, we go through, there's a range of about, it's either 22 or 27, can't remember, lots of symptoms. Nobody has all of them. But they grade how debilitating they are, how severe they are, and then at the end we go through them again. And even with that group program, the differences, the changes that people had made in not only the IBS but other areas was huge. It was phenomenal. So, I definitely will do that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's kind of talk through some of the specifics then. So, what is it that you are kind of targeting? What's kind of the approach? You've got that person in front of you. They've reached out specific for this issue. Where do you typically start that journey?
A lot of it's just that, what's that like for you? And people will come up with some kind of metaphor. You can kind of, couch your language in such a way that to get those kind of metaphors out of them. And then it just sometimes simply asking, well, what would you like to be different? What would that look like to you? Everybody will come up with something. I can remember I didn't even know that kids could have IBS. And my youngest person I worked with, he was 11 or 12, something like that. And, and I said to him, what's that like? And he just said to me, it feels like my whole stomach is boiling. It's absolutely boiling, and it's all churny and all this sort of business. And I said to him, well, what would you prefer? And he went, I want it to be still. And as he talked, he used his hand and he was just going side to side, almost like he was stroking a cat, but it was very, very level. And he said, I live next to a mill pond. And he said, and that mill pond's really, 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 really still. He said, even on a windy day, it's still and it's calm, and you can almost see your reflection in there. That's what I want my stomach to feel like. So in a sense, he's already given me what he wants. He's given me, things that I can just add into that session. Hey, let's just imagine this differently. There are other things that we do, obviously, in those 5 sessions, but it's very much majoring in on the metaphors that people use and changing them.
Yeah. You mentioned the metaphor of it felt like it was boiling. What are some other descriptors that you've heard?
Depends how rude I can actually be.
There's a reason why I'm asking this in my tracking, like 26 minutes into this conversation. So at this point, they know the top. I used to talk about this issue in morning networking meetings. And the intro was, "Good morning, everybody. A quick story about IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Just keep enjoying your meals. I'll just keep talking." And that was enough to win the attention of the entire room. So...
Yeah, so people have talked about, I had a phone call from somebody last week. She hasn't actually been able to go to the toilet, apart from a pee, for, I think she said 2.5 weeks. You can imagine the pain and all the rest of it. She's drunk more water, I think, than probably is in the Thames River. All the things that you would do. And again, we were on the phone, and she was actually, I think, in her office at work. So I didn't want to be too suggestive of what might happen at that particular time. But again, it's asking those same questions. She just said, we have a company here. It may be global. I don't think it is. It's called Dynarod or something. And that's basically what she said. It sorts your plumbing out, and that's, again, sometimes people are a little bit more coy and they'll phone me up or email me going, I really need some help with my internal plumbing. Things. So all sorts of metaphors, that people are using.
Yeah.
But it's their metaphor. It's no good me saying to somebody about their internal plumbing if they're a lot more graphic in their description. You may as well use the words they give you.
Well, I bring up the issue of the man, that it's an intimate issue and there's nothing medically attached to it. We'll just leave it at that. And it's the power of when I would just simply ask, do you want me to talk about this the way your doctor does or the way that you do? And whatever the answer was, oh man, we had instant rapport. And that told me the kind of language to use. And I'm flashing to a very specific man, and I'll censor this to keep it PG rated here, which was that, what's the, one of my big questions is always, what is that oddly specific thing that no one else would think to ask you, and that on the successful side of this, like this is resolved, what's that like very specific thing that even though it's a huge win, you're probably still going to not talk about it to other people? And a certain intimate act that's more about receiving a specific intimate act and the fear of passing gas during that. To which I'm like, all you have to do is just send me an email with a thumbs up in the body and just tell me that you won that outcome. And he goes, 3 weeks later, I get an email, just smiley face back. We'll just leave it at that. Which, again, the category of things we wish we were clever enough to make up sometimes.
Yeah.
In terms of looking at this issue, and again, I'm encouraging everyone who's listening to this conversation, yes, this is a dialogue around IBS. Yes, obviously. Though at the same time, look at how this is also a dialogue of becoming aware of a specific problem that very clearly needs to be solved in a brand new way, and approaching it from the angle of what's unique about this, what's the pathway to resolve this, and I'm guessing along the way, well, I'm not guessing, I know you've gotten better at this the more you've done it. True?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're learning from the people in front of you. You're learning from the times you stuff up. You're learning from the times that maybe, do you know what, things didn't go as well as expected and you didn't get the outcome that you want. I would love to sit here and say 100% of my sessions have been, successful. No, they haven't, but an awful lot, a lot of them have. But again, I used to teach my students when I was, you learn so much more from the times where you perhaps just missed something or you made a mistake or things like that. You learn, so much from them, as well as the ones that go really well. And you're learning the language. I think you're learning the language all the time because you're hearing it from, males, females, young, old, some people, as you say there, that are just, they give you it in graphic detail, not as a doctor would, and others that are more coy and private. it's listening to all of that and tailoring your approach to the person in front of you 100%.
Yeah. And so going about kind of reverse engineering what to do, what was kind of your journey of figuring out, let's say, what methods, what questions, what approach? Kind of walk us through that sort of detective period, as I guess we call it.
Probably like the most of us during the lockdown periods and things like that, because I wasn't going in driving as much, places going. None of us were going anywhere. So I was spending a lot more time reading about things, listening to podcasts, being on board with webinars, finding people that I really thought, hey, you're good at this business. What can I learn from you? And then finding my own kind of way of doing things that could also be tweaked and adjusted to almost anything, so that you're not. So again, I used to mentor student teachers, and I used to say to them, the more you do of this, the better you will become, and you'll learn shortcuts, you'll learn different ways, you'll learn ways that really, really work to you. And I said, so that if you are then, 5 years down the line, catapulted into another class, you'll be able to use all the skills that you will and tweak and adjust to that situation. And I think that's probably my hypnosis journey in a sense, that just, learning all these and then suddenly finding, hey, things are quite similar, but I'm tweaking and adjusting. So I'm not having to reinvent the wheel every single time. Does that make sense? Have I explained that clearly?
That does, yeah. I mean, it's the whole frameworks equals freedom mindset. They go, here's the template, here's where I'm going to start, and I'm going to vary away from this when I've got a rather good reason to do so.
Yeah. And it's having that flexibility, which you said there. Sometimes, that is really, really important. So we might be on session 3 with a particular person, and I'd be thinking, I never plan for sessions. I always like to hear what's changed, what's different when I meet, and then I go from there. But if they come in and something catastrophic has happened in their life that morning or the day before, that's the person in front of you, that's the issue to actually deal with, and is having that flexibility all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been teaching this, you've been sharing some of these insights too recently?
Yeah, so I've got my own course where I'm teaching other hypnotherapists my kind of approach. I partnered up with Anthony Jacquin because we were just having a chat one day, and he said, you really ought to, you've got so many Google reviews, people are talking about you need to do something about it. And I laughed and said, Anthony, I'd love to. I'd really love to. I said, but I don't know how to do a course. It's like I can teach it. I can do my stuff that way. I don't know how to do the whole setting up Zoom rooms. And he said, you're talking to somebody who does. So we partnered up. We did this collaboration last October, which was brilliant. And we set it up in such a way. It was very much like this. It was, we were having this chat about it, asking questions. It was live, but we did it in such a way for some people that couldn't be there because of time zones and things. They could still get from it what they needed. They could watch the recording at any time. We've got a Facebook group where people can ask questions. They can ask me, specifics about if they've got a problem with somebody, all that kind of thing. And we're adding to it each time. If a lot of people are getting in touch, a bit like what you're doing with your podcast, your live ones and things. If a lot of people are asking the same question, then Ant and I will hop on together and we'll do a little, 1 hour workshop or something towards it.
So the cynical statement that some would throw out is, oh, those who can't teach, though I'd ask you the better question to someone who already taught for a whole bunch of years anyway, which would be by training it, by teaching it, what has that done to help, refine what you do, if anything?
It makes you really think about your approach and, why you're doing certain things and whatever. But also, again, I think the main thing for me is how many people, I had no idea. And I had no idea until, as I started, doing this with hypnosis, how many people in worldwide have irritable bowel syndrome, and they honestly think they're no hope. They've been told often by consultants, well, you've got to live with this for the rest of your life, and you know what, it will be debilitating, it'll be really painful. Well, hey, there's a suggestion if ever you heard one. So all these people can help so many other people, and I just think that's amazing. And I'm learning again. I would say when I taught my students, I might have taught the same, scheme of work year on, year out, but I always got something different from it, from the students. Sometimes the student would approach something in a slightly different way, and I say, I love that. I'm taking that from you, and I'm going to do that for the students coming the following year. But it's similar even with this, sometimes on our Facebook, some other hypnotherapists say, hey, I did this and it really worked. I'm like, well, dang, why didn't I think of that? But I'm going to start using it now. That's how we learn. And I just think that's amazing, that community, that we can share all this knowledge and make that difference.
What I love about that is, well, the personal anecdote of a time that I co-taught a training event with someone who was one of my original instructors, and I demoed something, and he goes, oh, that was really interesting. And I go, I learned it from you. And he goes, I've never seen that before. And I go, well, there's a Jason Lynette original. Which we will find these moments where we have made these unintentional refinements. We have streamlined something in a rather specific way. And it's by going through that exercise of learning how to share it with others, or getting those oddly specific questions around why you do a specific thing the way that you do that specific thing, that further refines it. And I love this community aspect of this as well. Let me ask this now before I forget later on. Where can people find that training? Where's that located?
It's online. I'm hoping, Jason, you're going to put it in the show notes for me.
Oh, yeah. Send me the link. This, in the intro, I said exactly which episode number this was. I don't know that off the top of my head. So, hey, check the show notes attached to this episode, and we'll put a direct link there because we make it very easy. It's the thing you'll hear me say at the very end of this conversation after the outros and all of that. Do you like that? We are wonderfully organized around here. I want to ask one or two more things if you're good on time.
Yep.
Yeah. So the conversation we had almost about a year and a half ago, and it's not necessarily that we reach that sort of age of reason or we go against what we previously believed, though in this span of time, which admittedly is not that long, though you've done something pretty awesome, which is why you're in the Second Appearance Club. Is there a different perspective as to how our process works, why our process works, that's a bit different, or could be something outside of those categories? Is there a different way that you think about getting the change than how you did the last time we spoke? What's been that sort of more internal evolution, not just the external of this is what I'm working on? What's different now, Helen?
Well, I'm super freaking busy, which is always very, well, I was before, but I really am now. I think it's the confidence that in what I do has very much increased, and it's allowed me to just sometimes just throw in something from left field. It's also, I think we've chatted about this before. It's if you can say to somebody, the word flexible always I used to drum it into my student teachers that I mentored. I have to remind myself at times as well for me, but it's also being flexible for the person in front of you. If somebody feels backed into a corner, well, you're going to feel like this and all this sort of stuff, Let me tell you a story about being backed into a corner. So when I was little, I was a really fussy, faddy eater. And I remember my mum saying to me, I think it was, she said, I think it would have been lunchtime, and she said, you're not getting down from the table, Helen, until you finish that. Your gran, I think it was, spent a long time cooking this for you. What she didn't know was actually I can be quite stubborn when it suits. I think I sat there till bedtime, and I did not move, and I ate nothing, from that plate. and it was getting really awkward and embarrassing for all around. Maybe, and I remember thinking then, if I ever have children, I'm never doing so like we all do, I'm never doing anything like that with mine. And it's giving people those options, giving people choices. And I think the words perhaps and maybe, brilliant words to add into any kind of session when you're changing things for people. And again, we talk a lot, don't we, about the SUD score, 0 to 10 and all this sort of business. And I think it's really dangerous for the person in front of you saying, well, we're definitely going to get this down to a 0. Again, it's that pressure type thing. So, I often, one of the phrases I use a lot is, so if we could, reduce that or get it right the way down for you, perhaps even gone, that would be good, wouldn't it? So you're giving them almost like a little variety of options. I've never had anybody say, no, I can't do that. Actually, I'm always then very, very surprised. Often it just disappears. But it's not backing somebody into a corner.
I love that, especially it's that willingness to, I look at, and I know this is not your style, so we can easily say this here. It's where there's sometimes the moment where if someone is doing the rigid protocol, this is step 1, this is the way that it's been tested, we have to do it this exact way. It's where there's some schools of thought that are, as we found with this audience, losing their own popularity, but it comes around to that's where they would very easily then blame the person. Oh, this is why it's not working. And instead, okay, I got other things in the toolkit. I've got other strategies that I can use. And to be in the moment with the person and actually be, doing this revolutionary thing that I know you're actually quite skilled at, which is, what's it called? Listening. And being there with them and present and not just, what's my next move? What's my next routine? What's the next trick in the hat? And I love that answer for that reason of getting specific to what they need and not what the book said I need to do next, right?
Yeah. And again, I would say with the training I did, I probably went on ad nauseum about it, but I kept saying, look, this is a rough framework, but, learn to get really skilled and flexible and adaptable and, change things up because it's me and my personality and all that. I'm not afraid to really laugh with the people, that I work with, not laugh at them or any, of course not. But, we do have fun. I was known as the teacher. I remember a kid saying to me once, I can't wait to get in your class. I've heard you're really strict. I heard you really, really work as hard, but I hear that we laugh a lot. Well, great, I'm not then going to change when I'm not going to be this suddenly change my personality when I'm doing the job I do. Mm-hmm. So, and again, that laughter can just really, it just changes somebody's state, doesn't it? It builds that rapport, all those sort of things. But it's not being, I've got to put a joke in here now. We're now 12 minutes into the session and I've got an hour's session. Time I built in the joke. Can you imagine?
Well, my watch just buzzed, which clearly means Rabbi walks in. No. Yeah. Well, it's that.
It's that flexibility is so key, but also using your personality to affect that change as well. Not trying to be a clone of somebody else that you've seen. You're good enough as you are. Use you and the skills that you've got and get those better. And of course, we morph into certain other sort of people that we use some of their phrases. That's how we learn. But we're still fundamentally us and our personality. And, I think I may have messaged you, I can't remember, but one of the things that often people will say to me, ring up and I'll say, look, I've got perhaps a 2.5 week wait or something like that. If you're really, really desperate, I can think of a couple of people here, we want you because, and, you hear this phrase bandied around, but it really is true. People buy people as well as what they can offer. So it's making putting all these skills together in the package.
Yeah, I love that. So we'll link over in the show notes for the training that you've been doing. How can people find you? What's the best way to get in contact directly with you?
So you can find me on my website, www.advancehypnotherapy.biz, that's B-I-Z. There's a contact form on there. People can email me directly, Helen at advancehypnotherapy.biz. People can call me. I don't know, the area is +44, I think, if you're overseas, 7795 832 740. People can text or call, whatever. And again, if other hypnotherapists, want to get in touch to ask any questions about it, then, I'm always welcome that.
Awesome. I love that. Great to hear what you've been up to. And I'm going to resist turning this into a metaphor because there is significant thunder and lightning happening outside, which has nothing to do with digestion. We'll just leave it at that. And phenomenal having you back on and hearing these incredible updates. I'd ask you just a final thought, just to wrap this up here, which is if you could deliver a message back to yourself when you were first becoming aware, before you were first getting interested in learning hypnosis yourself, what would be that advice you'd give to yourself?
You can do it. I was told so many times from probably the head teacher from the school I decided to leave and all the rest of it, you're never going to make this work. This will never be a career. It's never going to be successful. And again, I had to choose to ignore that and surround myself with people who were supportive and encouraging. If you want it, you can find a way and you can make it work. I truly believe that.
Jason Linett here once again. And as a reminder, head over to worksmarthypnosis.com/414. Type in those numbers as an extension that will bring you over to the show notes of this week's episode to see exactly all the things that Helen and I talked about, access some of the links and references, and check out her upcoming training events as well. And while you're there too, check out hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. It has honestly never been this easy to grow your hypnosis business. Recent episodes with people such as Joshua Wagner and Grant Offenberger, and going back to, in February this year, Angie Kircher, people who didn't look at it from the mindset of this has to be hard, and instead just simply asked the question, what can I do to put myself out there? And it's where this podcast series is an ongoing resource in terms of helping people to solve that client attraction issue specifically for the hypnosis industry. Though at the same time, when you got a foot in the door, when you got some proven stuff that's already been, proven to work, it helps you to get there faster and easier. And that's the fancy way of saying don't make all the stupid mistakes that I did along the way. So check out hypnoticbusinesssystems.com, watch the video tour, and you can see the details in terms of how it's either a single payment for lifetime access or a brief installment, and then you own it, plus any future updates that I add into that program. It's called Hypnotic Business Systems because, and don't let this overload you, it is, as of now, more than 250 hours of stuff. 250 hours of quality, highly effective business training exclusively for the hypnotic profession. That sounds better. However, here's the thing. It's broken up into about 24 plus specific business action plans. So the reason it's called Hypnotic Business Systems, pick 2 specific things you want to focus on. For most of you, I would say it would likely be the VIP strategy session, as well as the online video content. That's where most people ought to start. Look at that. Get good at those. Get those into motion. Now you've got them figured out. I say systems, not that you never have to do it again, but that you don't have to rethink and reinvent the wheel whenever you go back and do it. Now, start to look around the rest of the program. I'll give you a hint. Most of you are communicating in a way that's training your audience to ignore you. Go watch my content inside of Hypnotic Business Systems, specifically around search engine optimization. Because guess what? It's the same thing that holds to be true on stuff that's not considered to be search engines. YouTube, TikTok, all social media. It turns out, if you're not yet using the words that your clients are looking for, they're not going to find you. And guess what? I pulled about a decade's worth of historical search data to give you the exact words and the strategies that your clients are looking for. This is just skimming the surface of what you're going to find, so check that out. Join today over at hypnoticbusinesssystems.com.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at worksmarthypnosis.com.